And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. And if not, I will know. Genesis 18:20. Sodom was a Canaanite city located from Sodom to Gerar to Gaza. Canaan was the son of Ham, one of the three sons of Noah. His brother Cush was father to Nimrod, who began the kingdom of Babel. It happened that God gave Abram, before his name was Abraham, great wealth of cattle and herdsmen, and gave to Abraham's nephew Lot the same. Their substance was so great that they had to separate. Abraham went to the land of Canaan, and Lot took the surrounding cities in the Jordan Valley. It was a plush valley God likened to the Garden of Eden. Of those cities, Lot chose a city named Sodom. The name meant to scorch, according to its bituminous soil. However, the men of Sodom were exceedingly wicked and sinful, having given themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. A sodomite is a male prostitute, but more specifically, it means to be consecrated to Astarte, also known as Ashtaroth. In Roman, it's Venus. In Greek, it's Aphrodite. And in Mesopotamia, it's Ishtar. She is the principal female deity worshipped for fertility and sexuality. Now, during a conversation with Abraham, God reveals his plans to destroy Sodom for their wickedness. So Abraham pleads with God that if he found 50 righteous people in the city, would he withhold his hand? And God agrees, I will withhold my judgment if I can find 50 people. And Abraham asks him again, okay, if you find 45 people who are righteous, will you destroy the city? God says, if I find 45, I will not destroy it. The Lord then is asked, hey, if there's 30 people, will you destroy it? God agrees, no, if there's 30 people, I will not destroy the city. And then Abraham asks again, if there's 20 found there, will you not destroy the city? And God agrees. And then he asks one last time, if there are 10 people found righteous in the city, will you destroy it? And God says, no, I will not destroy it. Needless to say, God sent 2 angels to come to Sodom, and he was met at the gate by Lot, the nephew of Abraham. Now Lot bid the angels to turn into the house, but the angels decided that they wanted to spend the night in the street. Yet he pressed them to come inside and eat. As they were doing so, and before they could lay down, the men of the city, both young and old, compassed around the house. They arrived from every quarter meaning the border and the outskirts. They called unto Lot and said, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. Now, know is the same word for to learn, to perceive, to be acquainted with, and is the same root used for when Adam knew Eve and conceived. Lot then went out to them and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Do to them as is good in your eyes, only unto these men do nothing. The men pleaded and tried to break down the door in their efforts so much to get to the men that the angels had to smote them with blindness. Note that angels and men are used interchangeably at this point. So if you hear me say men or angels, I'm talking about the same thing. So the men told Lot to get his family and get out of there, and that they needed to run to the mountains because they were sent to destroy the city. However, Lot's son-in-laws, the ones who married his daughters, they mocked and would not go. So Lot was hastened to take his wife and his daughters only. Lot was told once again to escape to the mountains, but he felt that that would be too far and he would die before he got there. So he asked to go to a neighboring city, and God agreed. God's only warning to Lot and his family was, do not look back. After Lot got out of there, God rained fire and brimstone down on the cities of Sodom, including the surrounding cities of Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboam. The whole land was consumed. Their only thing left was brimstone, salt, and burning. Brimstone is the chemical element we know as sulfur. When mixed with mercury, a naturally occurring element in the earth's crust, it creates salt. Lot's wife is recorded as having gone back and turning into a pillar of salt. Here's what else scientists and archaeologists have found. While I don't know what an airburst is, I believe fully the account that God said he rained down fire and brimstone. This could look like a meteor shower, and meteors are 12% sulfur.
On the site called locally Numera, and this is the site that the archaeologists associated with Gomorrah. So here you can see that ashy layer that's just underneath the surface. This is full of burned pottery. It's full of the fragments of human bones. The question is what evidence is there of this burning sulfur that rained down? Well, it seems that the culprit are these sulfur balls that are also found in this area. This is the area that the Bible calls the cities of the plain. It's also the area that has the archaeological sites that date to the time period of what's known as the early Bronze Age. And this is the time when Abraham and his nephew Lot lived. This is the time when the Bible says that the Lord destroyed the cities of the plain. So I'm standing now at the largest of these early bronze sites on the southeast side of the Dead Sea. This one locally is known as Rabbithole, and is the site that is associated with Sodom in the Bible. It was discovered as an early bronze site back in 1924. It was excavated in the 1960s and 1970s. And what archaeologists found here was this burn destruction that goes across this site. This city came to an end through a fire destruction. So here you can see this ashy burn destruction layer just underneath the surface. It's full of human bone fragments, burned pottery, and it's covering the entire site. So off in the distance here, you can see Rabbithole, identified as Sodom. And then right here to the southwest is this massive cemetery that you can see with all these pits that mark its boundaries. And these are formed because of the locals for decades have been coming and digging into these graves looking for antiquities to sell in the antiquity market. And so it's estimated from the archaeologists that dug here back in the 60s and the 70s that there are around 500,000 people buried in this cemetery. And it's just staggering. And what's really intriguing then is that they found a burn destruction across the cemetery that happened at the same time that the city was destroyed. So the city and the cemetery were destroyed in the same fire disaster. And there's no reason why an army would attack a bunch of graves and burn a cemetery. And so this was one of the major reasons that they interpreted the destruction here as being caused by a natural disaster. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why sulfur balls would only be preserved in water, because if they strike the land, then they're going to burn up. You can see the goo, it's just melting down to goo and then dripping off. So really, anywhere that they would have landed on land, they would have burned up like this, and they would have burned anything flammable around them. This is how the cities in the plain were burned. However, if they would have hit the water of the Dead Sea, that would have extinguished them, and therefore they wouldn't have burned up, and they would have sank down to the bottom of the floor of the Dead Sea and been preserved in a geological layer.
God says that the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is an example of what is going to happen to those who continue to live ungodly and follow after fornication and strange flesh. Now, the phrase strange flesh means departing from the course of nature to the unnatural. Romans 1:26 says, "For this cause God gave them up unto their vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in their lust towards one another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet, the vengeance of which is eternal hellfire." I'll end on this. I think that the men encompassing Lot's house also symbolized the push of the LGBT community on to the entire world, and them literally forcing you to accept. The wicked know what they're doing. Even demons know who God is. They are literally showing you the two sides. You're either for God or you're against God. And they know that being against God means eternal hellfire. They're literally showing you to your face.